This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some major updates shared with you. President Biden met with the oil executives. I'll let you know what came out of that meeting. And with the gas tax holiday on the table, it could save the average American $23 over the course of 3 months. With that low of savings, there's more calls for stimulus checks, inflation checks, and recession checks. And some economists are saying that those should be expected. I'll give you more details on that. Plus, there's $500 and $600 checks going out on a state level. And I'll play a video clip from Elizabeth Warren grilling the Federal Reserve Chairman about when the economy is going to get better. I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So let's get into this really quick here. So I want to go over how much each car is going to save about, according to this one article here. Federal gas tax holiday. Here's how much Americans drivers will actually save. So with this gas tax holiday of saving about 18 cents per gallon, it's not going to be entirely that, but the Ford F-150, $35 over the course of 3 months, Toyota RAV4, $23, Toyota Camry, $21, Toyota Highlander, $28, Honda Civic, $19, Chevrolet Tahoe, $40. Yeah, and I think that's it. So when it comes to that, it's not the best savings. Also, it depends on how much you're driving and what's your miles per gallon, how much tanks of gas your car takes. So there's a lot of factors there, but I'm going to play a video clip explaining more on that in a moment. But first, oil industry describes emergency meeting with Biden administration as constructive. We're not really getting much that came out of this meeting. So basically, oil representatives on Thursday described the meeting with a top Biden administration official as constructive, while the White House said the huddle was productive as both sides face pressure due to high gasoline prices. So we don't really know exactly what came out of this meeting, what was constructive, what was productive. That's just all we're getting out of that. And the average American could save a potential $23 over the course of 3 months from this gas tax holiday. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Take a look at this video clip giving the details of how this will all work.
Joining us now at the table, former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Ratner to talk about that gas tax holiday and when these prices might come down. Steve, good to see you. You've got your charts with you. I take it you're not as excited as the White House might be about this gas tax holiday.
I'm having a hard time finding anybody who's excited as excited as the White House is about this gas tax holiday.
They may not be as excited about that as
deep down, if you gave them truth serum, I'm not sure how excited they would be.
So what's the first chart here? We're looking at the chart, benefits or lack thereof.
Yeah, so I heard Brian Sullivan earlier talking a bit about this. So let me show you some numbers and put some flesh on the bones. The average American adult uses 1.8 gallons of gasoline per day. Multiply that by 90 days. This is a 3-month program. So that's 162 gallons of gas used by the average American. You multiply that by the 18.4 cents of federal gas tax, get to $29.80. Brian talked about 40-50% getting passed through. I'm being more generous based on some other studies. I think 80% gets passed through. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is the average adult American will save $23.85 over a 3-month gas holiday.
3 months.
3 months.
So 18 cents a gallon.
That's what you end up in your pocket with, $23.85.
So then, Steve, that raises the question, who does benefit from this exactly? The oil companies?
From the gas tax holiday? Well, it's just, if you look at the next chart, you'll see that basically when you get into what constitutes the price of a gallon of gas at the pump, you'll see that the vast majority of the cost is the crude oil. And the rest of this is important, but not nearly as important as the crude oil. Now, the president talked yesterday about refining capacity and the problem of the refiners not refining enough gas, and he sent them letters, and he's having a meeting, or Jennifer Granholm is having a meeting. But you can see, in fact, if you look at that little red circle in the upper right corner of the chart on the left, that profit margins for the refiners have gone up. Well, why have profit margins for the refiners gone up? Because if you look at the chart on the right, our refining capacity has gone down. 5 refineries have shut in America since the pandemic hit for a variety of different reasons. And the rest of the ones that are left are running at full capacity. And so in that kind of a scenario, the refiners are going to make a bit more money. But as you can see, relative to every other piece of the puzzle here, it's not a lot. Now, the president also talked yesterday about invoking the Defense Production Act. But what are you going to tell them to do? They're producing at 100% virtually.
Well, that's the other point, right? That the president is saying, I need your help on this, oil companies. I need your help. You got to refine. You got to pump more. They can't. They're going as fast as they can. Is it fair to say?
It is exactly fair to say. As much oil as can be pumped in America certainly is coming out of the ground. As much as can be refined is being refined, and this is simply a supply problem.
So let's talk about these big prices and consumption. What a high gas price does to people, and what impact that has more broadly on inflation.
So that's the yin and the yang of this, that if you have lower gas prices, people drive more, and that creates inflation, drives prices back up. And you can actually see a real-world example here. The dotted line at the top is 2019 gas usage, a fairly typical year before the pandemic. I didn't include 2020 because obviously the pandemic was hitting. But then if you look at 2022, which is the darker blue line, you can 2021, sorry, which is the turquoise line, you can see that it was recovering, almost got to the dotted black line. But the line below it, the darker blue line, that's this year. We're actually using less gasoline this year than we did last year, even though we're still recovering from a pandemic, because prices have an effect and they discourage consumption. And that's the yin and the yang of this thing.
So, Claire, obviously the White House wants to be seen as doing everything it can about gas prices and inflation, so this may be more symbolic than anything else. What do you make of the concept of the gas tax holiday and the tepid support, let's call it that, even from Democrats?
Well, I worry that the White House isn't focused as they should be on projecting strength. And whether it is a good idea or a bad idea, what is really bad is when a president announces a program and his own party is not fully behind him. So I say there's a political misstep here because it makes the president look weak. And he's already got a strength. You know, is he exuding enough strength? I mean, Americans want a strong president, and so this is bad for him. It's a little bit like how they try to clean up on aisle 5 when he has a gaffe and say, well, he didn't really mean that. They should not do that. They should let him say what he's going to say. I have a question for you, though, Steve. Why can't those 5 refineries gear back up again? Why can't Jennifer Granholm today say, or the president say, no refineries can be shut down right now in America, because it would help more than the gas tax holiday?
Sure. The problem is that of the 5, one had a fire, one had some kind of explosion. You cannot these are not simply things you can turn on like a car. It takes months. It costs tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. And by the way, this is, again, a little bit of the schizophrenia. We've been discouraging oil companies from maintaining refineries or opening new ones because we're theoretically in a transition away from gasoline. But we again made a misjudgment as to how long of a transition it was going to be and what we needed to do to make the transition work.
What are your thoughts on that? Is it worth it having that gas tax holiday? Should there be other checks given out instead of that? Well, you're not the only one who may think that. So Biden's gas tax holiday might save you $6 a month, fueling calls for inflation stimulus checks instead. So there's a lot of different numbers being thrown about, but some are saying that could save you $6 a month. Of course, it all depends on how much you actually drive. So according to this right here, an economist saying that everyone would rather pay less than more, but I do have some concerns over this gas tax holiday. And basically, this economist suggests indirect relief would be the best approach and recommends sending out a $50 or $100 check that Americans don't necessarily need to use toward gas. This could help alleviate inflationary pressures for everyone, not just motorists. If they do need it for gas, they'll be wise and save it, and that won't maybe have as a profound an impact on gasoline demand while still offering some sort of relief. Sorry for the fumble there. But yeah, so this economist saying $50 to $100 checks. Is that good enough? Should it be higher? Let me know your thoughts on that. So more on calls for stimulus checks. So how likely are stimulus checks to be used in the next recession? Economists weigh in. So one economist here is saying that I expect stimulus checks to be used again because they worked. So basically, there could be another round of stimulus checks, according to economists, if economists could have their way, at least according to this article, saying research on the stimulus check shows that people spend about half of the checks, and they do so quickly. The bottom falls out in a recession, so it's important to blunt the fall. Checks do that well. The second and third rounds went out within days. No other relief program came anywhere close. So basically saying here, research on the stimulus checks shows that people spend about half of the checks and they do so quickly. So yeah, basically saying that this economist thinks that more checks should go out. Do you think that more checks should go out? And if so, how much? Do you believe in the $50 to $100 checks, as the other economists said? Or sort of like Bernie Sanders said in the past here, Bernie Sanders presses Joe Biden on $2,000 stimulus checks. Promises must be kept. So if that one economist expects stimulus checks to happen again, do you think $2,000 stimulus checks are a good idea, bad idea? And the $2,000 checks, it's not like it would come out of or it would add to the federal deficit, especially since there's already a big bank account filled with money of stimulus that is unspent. So unspent funds color debate over additional pandemic relief. This article came out a while ago, but it's saying here that about $800 billion remains unspent or uncommitted. So that's $800 billion. That's a lot of money that could easily be used for $2,000 stimulus checks for anybody who got the $1,400 check before. But should it be done, or should it be a less of a check, maybe to more people, a higher check to less people? Let me know your thoughts on all that on terms of stimulus. Seems like Congress moving really slow at this point with everything. But when it comes to a state level, stimulus checks are flowing pretty well. Millions to get $500 stimulus checks by September. See if you're eligible for the cash. So this is going on in Colorado. So residents will receive the rebate in August or September if they file their 2021 tax returns by June 30th. So just a little less than a week left for that if you live in Colorado and you want to get the $500 checks there. Then also going on in Oregon to distribute one-time $600 payments to nearly 250,000 low-income households. So this is going on in the state of Oregon, one-time payments, $600. All money should be received by July 1st. So yeah, checks are going out now. They're doing that by direct deposit and stuff. Then also when it comes to inflation making U.S. households uneasy about emergency savings. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank have raised the odds of an economic downturn in 2022, 2023. Basically, a lot of them are saying that a recession is coming, but what is the Federal Reserve doing about it? Take a look at what Elizabeth Warren asks the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell when the economy is going to get better and what's happening about it. Take a look.
Chair Powell, you said last week that interest rate increases, quote, moderate demand. Can you just explain a little more about what that means?
Sure. So we think about interest rate increases as affecting financial conditions and then the economy through three broad channels, the first of which is interest-sensitive spending. So that's durable goods and automobiles and things like that. So interest rates go up, people's demand for as a result of higher interest rates will moderate or decline so that supply and demand can get into better balance. The second channel is just asset prices generally. Interest rates, as they go up, will cause asset prices to moderate across the economy, and people spend a little bit less out of their lower level of wealth. The third channel is the exchange rate, which is really just another asset price, and that just basically as the dollar strengthens. As rates go up, the dollar would strengthen, which would tend to drive.
So I appreciate this, and I do appreciate the explanation, but let me just see if I can just put a little more plain vanilla explanation of what's going on here. If I understand what you've said and what economists are saying across the board is that when you raise interest rate, there's going to be less money to invest, and that is, it's going to dampen business investment. Is that a fair statement?
I think the idea is to
makes it more expensive
moderate demand
to invest
so that it can be in better balance with supply.
Okay.
And
So
the current
it's going to make it
situation,
more
demand is well in excess of supply in some areas of our economy.
more expensive to invest, which in turn is going to throw workers out of work. And when they're out of work, they have less money to spend. So I get that rate increases stop companies from spending money to build new plants or to buy new trucks or to hire new people. Right, Chair Powell? When money's more expensive, they're less inclined to do that. I think that's what you just said on asset pricing, right?
Well, in the labor market, you have, as you know, you have a situation where there's a shortage of workers, and there are two job vacancies for every person who's actively looking for work. So part of this is to get the labor market back into balance.
Well, I appreciate you call it back into balance. What I'm trying to get at, though, is what does the tool of raising rates do? And part of what you just said is that it increases, in effect, the cost to invest, to buy those trucks or new plants or to hire new people. The reason I raise this and the reason I'm so concerned about this is rate increases make it more likely that companies will fire people and slash hours to shrink wage costs. Rate increases also make it more expensive for families to do things like borrow money for a house. And so far, the cost this year of a mortgage has already doubled. Inflation is like an illness, and the medicine needs to be tailored to the specific problem. Otherwise, you could make things a lot worse. And right now, the Fed has no control over the main drivers of rising prices, but the Fed can slow demand by getting a lot of people fired and making families poorer. And while President Biden is working to increase energy supplies and straighten out supply chain kinks and break up monopolies and bring down prices, you could actually tip this economy into recession. So I just want to say, you know what's worse than high inflation and low unemployment? It's high inflation and a recession with millions of people out of work. And I hope you'll reconsider that as you drive this, before you drive this economy off a cliff.
What are your thoughts on that? Should Congress be more tough on their Federal Reserve and have things turn around for the better? Let me know your thoughts on all that, and that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hey guys, this is the tip of the day. Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I want to tell you the one thing that you should do. When you do something and you don't learn, you will be a better person. If you learn, then you'll grow up and be more better at things that you learned. That's all I want to get the information to you. Guys, see you in the next tip of the day, and be safe. See you in the next tip of the day.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your time and support. Hopefully you have a great weekend. If you liked how I got straight to the point, hit the like button and subscribe. And hopefully you get to do something fun. Gonna spend some time. Actually, there's a birthday party later tonight that we're going to, so gonna have some fun with that. Hopefully you could do something fun as well. If you want to check out my latest videos, my other channels, you could click up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.